Okay, class, settle down, settle down. Class is in session for this month. Hopefully you did your reading, since today we're going to be talking about chapters 2 and 3 of Sumiki Ogami and This Strange Everyday Life, which also includes the controversial bit of this manga, which will be exciting to see. Bit of a recap to start though. This manga takes place in a world with genjins, people but not people. To put it simply in terms for my viewers, the kimono Mimitak. The main character, Yutaka, whose name is still a pain to pronounce for me, isn't one of these genjins. But the main love interest and first friend of his, Sumiki, is. The first chapter showed us how the two get introduced to each other as well as world building, and ending it with Sumiki inviting Yutaka over to her house, which is exactly what we see in the first page of the second chapter, called Sumiki's Den, with Yutaka still getting those death glares from the other boys. He says he'll check his schedule and worries about what to do. It then cuts to a flashback with someone asking why he's getting invited over, and it's these guys interrogating him, revealing that they're part of a fan club of hers. But he still thinks about what she said in the previous chapter about finding his feelings together, and begins to overthink it, switching between not going, and not going again, and even acknowledges that it's weird when he thinks about it, but ultimately decides he shouldn't, telling her that he thinks it's for the best. She says it's okay, and he realizes he's obsessing over others' reactions. She's about to leave, but he asks if he can change his mind, which she gives the okay for, and walks off saying there's no helping it and that she'll see him Saturday. And he decides to take his leave as two people get scorched alive behind him. It cuts to sometime later when she's hanging out with some friends who ask about him, because inviting Yutaka to her house, she just sees it as asking a friend over, because to her, she treats guys and gals the same. So they warn her, saying she should be careful in case he does something, you know, like lay hands on her, which she says isn't a problem, showing her reasoning immediately afterwards, saying there's no way she'd lose to him. It cuts again to assuming Saturday. She's getting ready and he's outside a train station, nervous as can be and overthinking everything as she calls to him. And oh my god, her casual clothes are so cute, with even him kind of realizing. He apologizes to the fans and his thoughts as they approach her place, or so I thought, because it's atop of a mountain they just need to climb to, which there's no just about this. But she's fine because she could just jump out of windows, being so strong and all. So she has no problem walking a rough trail. But she calls for him to look at something, little paw prints on her shirt. And she's okay with getting dirty, or in this case, absolutely filthy, but can just wash it, and tries being more careful with her uniform. Though she did get it covered in dirt while digging the other day, but that doesn't count. She pushes him as it cuts to the entrance, with something lifting the boulder. A margot-sized wolf just casually there as a gatekeeper, but we see what her house, or den in this case, is like, which is actually just kind of spectacular, as we find out that wolves and werewolves are the same, wanting a cave to protect themselves and make a den. But now with genjins being more accepting, there was progress including electricity and running water, though very few cubs actually go outside. Though they're at her house, which is cluttered, feeling really lived in. She's showing him everything, including the socks he gave her, which she uses for plushies to not tear them. There's some inner thoughts of the MC as Stomp's approach, because two people burst through the door, with one of them announcing they wanted to tell their sister about a new record. But there's three siblings who don't introduce themselves and instead are introduced by name cards, Sumiki being the oldest of them. Yutaka says hello, but she says they need to step outside with a menacing aura. There's a photo of the four siblings and someone lifting a boulder, it being the youngest sister because that's the record she broke, but that menacing aura was because of Sumiki's competitive nature, making it now about wall climbing, which the sister doesn't break. The brother asks if Yutaka's gonna try, which he says he's not that athletic, while the middle sister says it's not something humans can do. So he looks over and tries, doing as the Romans do. There's another photo and Yutaka's wiped, but someone approaches, the middle sister. She asks how Sumiki is outside in human society, which Yutaka says she's doing better than human, but asks if something's troubling her. So she goes on saying she looks human, so everyone expects things of her, saying that werewolves have a variety of appearances and personalities, so some just won't be accepted. And even their parents say that if Sumiki succeeds, then it'll encourage the other children. Even though she she seems carefree, she's carrying a heavy load, with him remembering back to what she said about treasuring people. Even so, she leaves the den for everyone's sake, with the reality setting in for him, questioning if she should even be around him, wasting her time. She walks over asking what's up, and tells him to be honest for the sake of finding his feelings, which makes him cave and apologize, since she already shoulders so many burdens and listened to his, thinking it was a waste of time. Going on saying he doesn't know what she's been through and that she'll be fine and to not worry about him. But she says she isn't shouldering anything and isn't leaving the den to build a future for all werewolves, but just to dominate her siblings. If her siblings get curious about the outside world, she can teach them, and if she does, they'll have to submit to her. And she verifies his goal of realizing and accepting his feelings, finding his heart. If it gets too painful, he can just stop at any time, which he said, yeah, which makes her say that it's the same for her. So she thinks it's okay if they search together, saying it's straightforward and to not go crazy overthinking it. Besides, if he was the problem, she wouldn't have invited him into her territory. That calms him down, and she asks what his feelings are about this, waiting for his answer. But instead, he sets down the rake toy and leans over, sniffing her, remembering her greeting, but snaps back saying, let's get along from now on, immediately going into his thoughts as she asks, isn't it okay if humans use human greetings? Because she wasn't expecting that at all, and they both take a moment before he goes all red in the face. He starts apologizing profusely, and she says she did it too, and changes topic saying he should go since his house is far, showing him out. And all the siblings think there's something there, and he agonizes about being too Roman till Monday. To end off the chapter, there's a little comic about her setting a rock splitting record and him easing up. And then we get to chapter 3, titled Sumiki-san and Lunch. This chapter is supposedly the really cursed and controversial one, so let's see what all the hype's about. It starts off with the school bustling for lunchtime at the cafeteria, having a bunch of options for food, including insects, even having partitioned spaces. But of course, Sumiki sees him, asking where he normally eats. He says alone and has a spot, since the classroom is also very chatty. So she wants him to show her, and doesn't know what to get for food, which is, of course, when she says the cutlet sandwich. Increasingly getting more excited as she talks about it, tail wagging and all. But it's Wednesday, immediately making her tail stop, and she gets some food. They go to his spot, but there's the vampire from before wanting to drink some blood, with a reminder for those who didn't remember that. And he's only really interested in some blood, which gets him slapped by this girl, running off, leaving him just there. So he calls up another person, giving them details on where he is, saying he really needs it because he's a vampire. And his ego gets the best of him again, while our protagonists just sit there watching. So Sumiki walks over, saying he's just eating and it's nice for some variety, which he sees her bringing up that he didn't get her contact info the other day, and she apologizes for that, saying she was hungry and that he gets the same way. So he uses that incident to get some blood from her, saying she must understand the pain of being hungry, and Yutaka just thinks how terrible that logic is, which she doesn't care about, with Yukata saying that he's gonna bite her and she should think about it. But if you gotta eat, you gotta eat. And he just digs in, thinking it's only something Genjins can understand and a human can't, because if it were two humans, and he starts imagining something completely wild and starts freaking out, so much so that he pulls the vampire off, puts a coat on her, and wipes the vampire's mouth, only realizing after and apologizing, saying it was just a meal and should have been more understanding. But the vampire guy, whose name I completely forgot and don't care enough to find it, starts teasing him about being jealous. He gets way too far into his thoughts though, and the vampire laughs, saying that Yutaka's a pain, and what do ordinary humans have to worry about anyway? Though good timing, as the girl he called up shows up and Sumiki wants to eat with Yutaka, while he overthinks, of course thinking it's just how she is. She asks about her neck, with her saying it'll heal in no time since werewolves have fast healing, and flips her collar showing it's already healed, but he just buries his head in his hands since he was stuck with that image for a while. And that ends the 2 chapters. Do I think this manga should be considered controversial? No, it's not even that bad. Literally, this happens in so many other mangas, with the main character's mind wandering a bit too far, and that's what this manga has, just the general rival in a rom-com stuff, and it isn't bad in the slightest in any other thing. But do I think these chapters are amazing? 100%. Sounding like a broken record, the art style is fucking amazing, especially the shot of Yutaka leaning over in her den. It's just such a visually stunning shot, along with a whole lot of other panels throughout these chapters. And call me crazy for this one, I think the pacing for these chapters was really good. The slice of life aspect for the third one was a nice touch, but I want to talk a bit more about the second chapter. Getting introduced to Sumiki's siblings and showing how much they worry for her is such a nice touch, no matter how unrealistic it is. See, me and my siblings send each other stuff like this, which I don't think they'd want to show that, but there's still the competitive nature of siblingship they show. It's such a nice touch to see, and I just overall really enjoyed these chapters. And that's about it. I've said really all I wanted to. Again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you want to see the series continue, like the video. For next month, we'll be going over chapters 4, 5, and 6 if you want to do your reading. But for now, that's all I got. I'll see you in the next one.
Attack on Titan, Tokyo Ghoul. These hentai babes make me drool. Hatsune Miku is great. She makes me masturbate. Fairy tale.